It's hard to believe that someone like Dick Van Dyke, whose legacy is woven into the very fabric of American entertainment history, is now standing on the edge of his 100th birthday, a milestone that not only seems surreal but also makes you pause and realize the depth and breadth of a life so rich in joy, resilience, creativity, and cultural impact. And when you take a deep breath and look at him today, not only will you be stunned by the sparkle that still dances in his eyes, but you might find yourself tearing up, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what this man has given the world for nearly a century, because Dick Van Dyke isn't just an actor, singer, and dancer. He's a symbol of everything good, warm, and magical about old-school showbiz, a genre-defining force of nature who has lived, laughed, and loved through almost every major event of modern American history and somehow managed to emerge with his soul intact, his humor sharp, and his legs still moving in rhythm. Born Richard Wayne Van Dyke on December 13, 1925, in West Plains, Missouri, and raised in Danville, Illinois, Van Dyke didn't come from Hollywood royalty, nor did he have an easy path paved with wealth or influence. Instead, he was a self-made dreamer, growing up in the shadow of the Great Depression, skipping meals, tinkering with comedy routines, and eventually discovering the radio, theater, and television that would later become his entire world. And even in his earliest days, those who knew him could see the telltale signs of the greatness to come: an uncanny ability to make people laugh, a boundless enthusiasm for life, and a natural knack for movement that would later evolve into the nimble physical comedy and loose-limbed dancing that became his signature trademarks. His career began modestly, with stints in advertising and radio, before a fateful turn into the entertainment industry, where his charisma proved irresistible and his timing, both comedic and professional, couldn't have been more perfect, as he soon landed the lead role in Bye Bye Birdie on Broadway, for which he won a Tony Award, and that triumph led directly into The Dick Van Dyke Show, a sitcom masterpiece that not only made him a household name but redefined what television comedy could be by blending intellect, slapstick, and relatable domestic situations with a level of sophistication and depth that had rarely been seen before, especially thanks to his dynamic chemistry with Mary Tyler Moore and the writing brilliance of Carl Reiner. And through it all, Van Dyke shone not just as a performer, but as a man gracious, funny, humble, and fully aware of the power he held in being a source of comfort and joy for millions of viewers across the country. When he transitioned to film, he didn't just survive, he thrived, bringing unforgettable characters to life in Mary Poppins, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Elt, Robin Crusoe, Usen, and the comic, showcasing a versatility that was as breathtaking as it was enduring. And though many remember him best as the bumbling chimney sweep Bert with the famously questionable Cockney accent, it's precisely that charm, that willingness to go all in with heart and enthusiasm regardless of flaws, that endeared him to audiences of all ages, establishing him as a beloved figure not just in America but around the globe. Yet, for all his outward joy, Van Dyke faced deeply personal battles, including a decades-long struggle with alcoholism that nearly derailed his life in the 1970s, a struggle he eventually overcame with courage, grace, and the support of friends and family, and in the process, he became an advocate for addiction awareness, speaking candidly about his experience so that others might feel less alone in their own darkness. Beyond that, he also endured the loss of many close friends and collaborators, including the death of his longtime partner Michelle Triola in 2009, a devastating loss that left him emotionally shattered but not broken, and instead of withdrawing from the world, he chose to keep moving forward, embracing life even more fiercely than before, eventually falling in love again and marrying Arlene Silver in 2012, a woman 46 years his junior who brought new vibrancy and companionship into his world and whose presence continues to be a joyful constant in his life as they sing, dance, and laugh their way through each day, proving that love is ageless and that connection, creativity, and laughter are perhaps the most effective medicine for a long, meaningful life. Indeed, Van Dyke's attitude about aging is as inspiring as his performances, for he refuses to buy into the notion that growing older must mean growing slower or quieter. Instead, he continues to dance, to sing, to joke, and to inspire, often attributing his longevity to daily exercise, a refusal to let bitterness take root, and a strong sense of purpose, even in his late 90s, as he continues to make appearances participate in interviews, record uplifting videos, and engage with fans online, going viral on multiple occasions for videos of him dancing in his living room, belting out tunes from decades past, or simply flashing that iconic grin that somehow never faded with time. And yet, perhaps what's most remarkable about Van Dyke at this age isn't that he's still around, but that he's still very much alive, not just in a medical sense, but in the emotional and spiritual sense, fully engaged with the world. Full of warmth, generosity, and humor, never allowing cynicism or regret to harden his heart, and serving as living proof that age is not a prison but an opportunity to grow wiser, kinder, and more joyful if you choose to see it that way, which Van Dyke always has. In recent years, especially as the pandemic threatened to isolate so many elderly individuals, Van Dyke became a symbol of resilience, posting videos and messages urging people to stay active, keep smiling, and never stop pursuing joy, even as the world around them changed, and his fans, young and old alike, responded with gratitude, admiration, and a sense of reverence usually reserved for saints or spiritual leaders, because in many ways, that's what Dick Van Dyke has become, a beacon of hope, an embodiment of the idea that a life filled with laughter and movement is one well lived, and a rare example of someone who never lost touch with their childlike sense of wonder. As tributes continue to pour in ahead of his 100th birthday, people are not merely celebrating his accomplishments, though they are many, but the essence of who he is: a man who never compromised his principles, who treated everyone with kindness, who gave more than he took, and who never stopped believing in the beauty of show business and the importance of making people laugh, especially when the world felt heavy or dark. And when you see him today, perhaps wearing a jaunty hat, strolling with Arlene in the California sun, or dancing in a viral TikTok with the energy of a man half his age, you might feel a lump in your throat, not out of sadness, but because you're witnessing something truly rare, a life not just survived but mastered, a human being who used every minute of his century on Earth to bring a little more happiness into the world, and who, even now, continues to remind us that it's never too late to start smiling, to keep moving, and to live with joy in your heart and music in your soul.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.